Dan Perry here with another Dan on Tech Python video. In the last video we looked at input and we saw how we could input a value from the keyboard. What we want to do this time is we want to look at changing the data type. If you remember, when we put a number in, it said the type was a string. And if I run this, and basically it's the same as the last program, except what I did was I changed the prompt a little. I said, what's your favorite number, and output it. And we're going to also print the type of it. So let's go ahead and run that. And it asked for my favorite number. And let's say I put 5 this time. And it output my favorite number is 5, but it said the class was a string. Well, here's where we run into problems. Let's go in and let's now say that B what is your, let's say, least favorite number, and put that B. Let me copy these 2 lines and change it to least. And make this B. And look at the type of B. If I run this now, it asks my favorite number. Put in a 3 this time. Least favorite number, 7. As we expected, it output the favorite and least favorite, the 3 and 7. Both are strings. Well, here's where we get into a little trouble. What if I wanted to say that C is equal to A plus B? And then I wanted to print C. Let me copy these down and change it sum. And I'll go ahead and put the type here. And when I run it this time, it seems to run okay. And let's do a 7 and a 1. And uh-oh, it didn't give me an error, but look what it did. Sum is 7, 1. 7 and 1 should have given me an 8. Well, remember, these were strings. So when we, quote, added the 2 strings together, it did something called concatenate the strings. It created a new string C that was the combination of the first 2. So there's where our problem is. So what do? How do we fix that? Well, we fix it by inputting or putting our input statements inside of another function. And if we're assuming here that we're going to have integers, I can use a function called int, open my parentheses here, and every time there's an open parentheses, there has to be a close, so we're here at the end, the close. And the same thing here, int, for integer. Notice right now I've got a little squiggly over here. It will go away when I close that parentheses. Now, if I run this, what's my favorite number? Let's do 42. What's your least favorite number? Let's say 100. And now when we go back and look at our output, it says my favorite number is 42, but notice now its type is int. Since it's an integer, it is a number. What's your least favorite number? 100 says it's a type int. So when I add the 2 together, I get the correct answer, 142, and it is a type int. So if you're inputting numbers, you have to use the appropriate function to convert them to the type of variable it is. If I wanted b to be a float, I could use the float function. And let's run this again. Again, my favorite number has to be 42. My least favorite number, 1.1. And now it's 43.1 because here we've got the integer, we've got the float of 1.1, and the sum is 1.1. So one of the things you need to remember is that whenever you're inputting data, if you're inputting numeric data, you need to convert it to the correct type of data. Now, you'll sometimes see somebody do something along the lines of z equals input something, and then they'll do z equals int of z. But that's an extra command, and that is not Pythonic. That is not neat. That's not as readable because they're two statements. So, you know, the best way of handling it, and you may see this in documentation illustrating it, but the best way of handling that conversion is right at the input. If for some reason you have need of that number as both the string and integer at different types, then you might not change it. But the int forces it to an integer or converts it to an integer float into a floating point number. One of the things that a lot of people will do is they will forget about that, and they'll input numbers and then they'll get the wrong values. And so just try to be aware of that when you're working. Thank you for watching this Dan on Tech video. Please subscribe to this playlist so you don't miss future videos. Please check out and subscribe to our other Dan on Tech channel playlists.